Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Blitz, a competitive player in For Honor. I decided to make a guide about Dominion from a more competitive perspective. Every day I see more and more comments and people saying how For Honor is not a competitively viable game. There are obviously going to be ludicrous claims in every game's community, but I see it's much more in ours. The competitive scene is imminent, determined by bad business. I'd like to serve it. Alright, I gotta get my boy Egg.
Introduction to horizontal maps. The Shard, Overport. Here. Horizontal maps place all three points A, B, and C in the horizontal position, so both the attackers and defenders. These maps, there's not a point that either being crossed, because all the points can be contested by both teams falling vertically, which the attackers can send two people to see and answer the attack. But, for the purpose of this video, Overwatch. Let's take Central Garden first. A common and well-respected approach at the beginning of a match would consist of sending 3 of your best team fighters to the C point and 1 player to the A. This strategy is the bread and butter of most competitive teams, because if both fights are won, you gain control of the C point as well as the minion lane, which can be accessed much quicker by the C point than the A point.
Most important factor in these maps, C is much better than A. Why is C so much better than A? C point has a much faster rotation to mid than A point does. This also means that any teammate rotating out of the fight can go heal, will get on point faster, therefore heal faster, and can rotate back to the fight much quicker than the person who's taking it. Controlling mid is also very important. It is the biggest this is why 3 to C is the best. This allows for the best chance to win. Your immediate concern should be the status of your team and the reason then the A point will be right for the taking, thus resulting in full control of the map, aka a triple cap. Now that you have all the points, you should be looking to shut down the enemy's recovery at all costs. What does this mean? For starters, a good team will always
At the end of the day, For Honor is a fighting game. If you lose too many fights, you lose the game. However, there are still strategies you can implement to force the game in your favor. Let's say your entire team dies in the beginning phase. Your point is dropping the team off 3 spawns and pushing through the mid lane. This is a point where you don't have to once mid is captured, there are both are acceptable options, depending on the composition
Next part is going to be an in-game game and one of the corners. The game came back. 500 comments.
Zone C を制圧。
Alright, Mo's going for mid, just to clear through.
ゾーン A を制圧。ゾーン C を喪失。
Who gets the clear here? On the board as possible, because if you see there on the top right, +2 on A and +2 on C gives a massive point generation. Now we're down nearly 400 points here. We just want to get something on the board, so let's see.
And the fight on C, very, very important. Because Rippy, he has post or free Shugoki 2 45 seconds. This is going to be an extremely hard fight to win. But if they
ゾーン C を制圧。
Excellent appeal there.
They use that blast to separate.
ただのかすり傷だ。心配には及ばん。
Okay, Rippy's down. That's one for the count. One is a bar, one is 2 bars, and one is about 3.
It's a bad thing. Now, see, this entire team, they're fighting the same black jackets. They're always they have one boosting on the other. Seed is getting
味方チーム崩壊中。
that's why they're just gaining.
大難自倍。味方チームが奮起。
Let's try to connect it here.
全力で行け。敵チーム崩壊中。
He notices he's trying to get to C point and try to gank him. Picks up a kill really quickly. And there's two people very, very low here. They're in critical condition. They take those two out. Now it's just Buck on C point. Which remember, I've been stalling for quite a while so I can keep him away from the other team fight.
Seems like a couple of sloppy ganks here, but
yeah, turning nerves.
He eventually
take him out, grab that, rally, and now they are down one person.
And the renown advantage that TKS had very early in the fight is just completely gone. Now they all have tier 4s basically, but Wheat does have Flask of course, and Egg does have his tier 4s. But Mo can heal the Flask. So that's going to be a really big obstacle.
Commentators, Ruby is not
thinking unless they capture seed.
BB3, that's going to turn into.
Did you have Fury Flask as well? TKS, yes.
Second console just doing wonders right now, trying to keep him alive. Excellent peel there. And they're just trying to win this 2v2 basically.
Wheat just gets chipped down like, eventually, and then they just take a gank.
He's always in the right place at the right time. We say this as he's getting obliterated on point A, but this guy just, if you've ever spoken to him, he's so calm and collected.
Now see, they did lose on C, but it doesn't matter since they do have A point.
It seems someone rotated him. But they should get him as well, and then they get the point.
Yeah, his health bar produced a magic trick and went disappear. So.
Okay, so here, they still have mid. The goal is to clear through that, try to take an even fight, and push them onto their point to stop the point generation.
Now, for some reason, TKS is giving up mid lane, even though they have 2 tier 4s.
Now that the line is clear, it's going to be an even 3v3. That's going to turn into a 4v4, I believe. Let's see how that goes.
That is Flash, but Flash didn't hit anybody actually. But they use that Flash to separate Egg.
Back to the wood. I like it. Okay, Rippy's down. That's 1 for the count. 1 is a bar, 1 is 2 bars, and Wheat is about 3 1/4 of a bar.
It's a bad bench, dude. Now, see, while this entire time they're fighting on C, they're always gaining points from A and B. They have one boosting on A, which is Egg, and he's healing at the moment. And then they have B just passively gaining points, while C is getting nothing for TKS. So that's why they're just gaining points all the time. That's why that's a good strategy.
Zone A を喪失。
Console does try to counter here, but Scorpion does get back. So they're fighting Luffy.
Yeah.
Also brings out a blast, doesn't do much because it's still very strong.
Hey,
But it
kill
does
the
suffer.
Alright, nail bomb seems to come out and goes back.
I do get a little bit lucky here because the lead kills me just in time. Would have been dead at the break, but luckily I wasn't.
Now, this is a bad situation for Mo, because now they are permanently breaking unless they have to see. You mess up, TKS does mess up the game. Mostly
Here I try to make the very risky call that he should in the 3v3, so I take their best team fighter off, which is Buck, and he's going to have to push me on C. If C is a 12 I take that advantage and take the 1v1 because I'm very confident I can beat Buck in the 1v1. So you see, that's a contest on C point while they fight the 3v3 here.
And I don't think this is a great idea here, because Mo was pretty low. He was like 2 bars. Weed, I think, was a decent bit of health, and so was Scorpion. So I think if we went and take the 1v1, since he was greater and he had to death, while Scorpion just keeps it up, I think they could have done a really good job just killing Mo, capturing the console. But instead they took the fight off of the plane.
This is a really good play by Spec here. He notices he's trying to get the C point, try to gank him. Picks up a kill very quickly. So now there's 2 people very, very low. In critical condition. They take those 2 out, now it's just Buck on C point. Which remember, I've been stalling for quite a while, so I'm going to away from it.
A couple of sloppy games.
Turning nerves.
It eventually
Take
dies.
him out, grab that, rally, and now they are down 1 person.
And the renown advantage that TKS had very early in the fight is just completely gone. Now they all have tier 4s basically, but Wheat does have Flask of course, and Egg does have his tier 4, so. But Mo can heal the Flash, so it's going to be very
Commentators. Spec just harassing.
Right now, see what Spec is doing is he's keeping Scorpion off of healing his teammate. These console and I think Mo, no, and Egg, they separated 1 person and they just kept yanking him. Spec was just spamming. Which, that's what you want to do in a numbers advantage. Let's say 3 people versus 2 people. If those 2 people, 1 person keep one of those 2 people away, while the other 2 people will gank from the side, confirming a lot of damage. So that's what you want to do.
There, he's down, and just Rippy left over. And that's how you come back from a 500-point deficit.
How's it going, everybody? Over the last few years while covering this game, I've often been asked to cover strategy or tactics kind of topics. What are the best rotations and whatnot? And to be honest, while there were some basic ideas and theories floating around, well, not just that, they were also employed in matches, but they were also so basic that it wouldn't have been nearly enough to cover a whole video. Go pick Nobushi, never leave mid, and just kill soldiers. There you go, mid lane explained. That's what it was back then. Overall, For Honor isn't a game that draws in its audience because of its strategical elements. Don't get me wrong, it definitely has these elements, but I guarantee you that everybody who starts playing this game does so because of the fighting. We are a fighting game first and foremost, and then some MOBA elements sprinkled in. But you can see this in everyday matchmaking. People want to fight, they don't really care for an overarching plan. Go in, press buttons, feed revenge, complain, and rinse repeat. To put it nicely, there is an overall lack of understanding of what you're supposed to do outside of the very rudimentary concept of capture a zone and gain points. Like I said, for most people the fighting is what makes them launch the game. Compared to MOBAs, the fighting in these games is just, well, let's stick with the nice thing. It's basic. There is very little counterplay to 18-second crowd control in Dota or getting right-clicked by a Fed ADC in League. But both of these games can almost be played without killing anybody. The objectives on the map are enough to secure a victory, with minimal blood spilled. And For Honor can be played like that as well, but nobody wants to, and neither do I. But this doesn't mean that the other part is not important. So first of all, if you're new to all of this, we will define two things: micro game and macro game. Micro is the fighting in For Honor. You fight your 1v1 somewhere, and it's about that very fight. Lights, heavies, blocks, parries, whatever. That is the micro game. It's the fact that you do fight. Nobody cares why you fight. But that is the macro game. The reason why you fight that specific person at that specific moment at that specific location. The plan behind it all. I will be using these terms from now on, so I hope I made it clear what I mean with it. Let me know if it's not. So we are tackling two things today. The first is map openness and then point priority. Basically, where you should run when you just respawned or finished a fight. But let me make one thing very clear. This is not some ultimate, you always need to do this or that in every situation where A or B happened. All of this is just supposed to give you an idea about the theoretical, quote-unquote, best approach. So many additional factors play a role, and it's impossible for me to cover them all. Well, not just for me, in general, I guess. But alright, map openness then. These can be roughly divided into the two types of maps we have. The maps that have a clear home point, and the maps that have an equal travel time for both teams for each capture point. The maps with a home point are pretty straightforward. One team member captures the home point, whereas the remaining three, they go mid. The importance of the midpoint, for that I've made a whole video some time ago. Just as a little reminder, the displayed numbers in the top right of how many points your team gets for holding these are a little misleading. The actual values for these are as follows. We are looking at 0.74 points per second for an unboosted zone, 1.85 points per second for a boosted zone, and only holding the minion lane gives 1.35 points per second. What is shown in-game are rounded numbers. Holding and actively farming mid generates many more points than many people give it credit for. For all the details about minion spawn behavior, the amount that spawns and much more, please check out the video from back then. Should pop up now. I am very well aware that things like the attacker orders will throw a wrench into that plan. I've said this repeatedly that orders should be something that can be completed organically, without anyone having to alter their playstyle significantly. I'm not saying that the attacker order is necessarily that, but players certainly do treat it like that. But that's a topic for another day. So, you are now mid, and your goal is to push out the minions and win that team fight. If the opposing team didn't send an equal amount of players, this should mean that you can capture mid almost uncontested and force the fight in the middle of your own minions. They might not do a ton of damage, but it does add up over time. The other type of map is where there is usually one clear point that is more important than the other. Funnily enough, it's most often the C point. It usually has a faster rotation speed towards mid and allows for easier heals and cycling out of players in teamfights. As that point has priority, most teams send 2 players to capture it at the beginning of a match. Strong 2v2 characters are preferred here. Warlord, Kensei, Nobushi and so on. Your other 2 players once again go mid because of the previously mentioned point generation of the minion lane. The other capture point is often neglected and captured once a team fight is won and a team member can be spared. Priority should still be to get the more important point and mid. Winning on either of the 2 locations allows for reinforcements on the other, and as explained before, the distance between the 2 is usually quite short. But you can also do the total opposite here. Let's say your team is not confident enough to win the 2v2 on the important point. Then you can once again send 3 people mid and 1 person to the off point. This gives you a push advantage in mid and a better team fight, as the other team has to respect the numerical advantage in mid. It also means that reinforcements are on the way, right after the off point has been captured. Now it's about stopping heals and winning the big team fight in mid that is about to ensue. Well then, what to do later in a match, once the momentum of a match has been established? The point priority usually goes like this then. First is your own home point, or in general, any point that you currently hold. If it gets contested, this is a chance for your team to take advantage of defender renown. I've made a separate video on this recently, and if you're not familiar with it, I urge you to have a look. It is an important aspect and one of the reasons why you want to fight on a point that is held by your team. Once again, there might be many other things going on the map that require your attention. This is just a guideline that you can follow, so don't blindly run into any fight that is happening on one of your points. Then if you are in the unfortunate scenario of being triple capped, then your best bet is mid. Same as when you have taken back your home point or successfully defended it. Mid is a point that you can take without having to kill anybody. You can chip away at the minions and eventually force it to go back to neutral. This will also force opposing players off the other zones and stop the boosting, as you have a numbers advantage in the mid fight. And then third on the priority list are enemy held points. Once again, think defender renown. If you push on their point, you better be very confident that you can win that fight, because if you give up multiple kills, this can lead to a massive renown lead for the other team. And renown lead means feat advantage. You don't want to have to face Fury Flasks or Umbral Shelters early on. The opportunities to backcap also derive from that. How many opponents are dead? How quickly can they send someone to stop the cap or contest straight after? By leaving for a backcap, do you leave your team in a disadvantageous position? In matchmaking, you often see players go straight for the backcap every single time they respawn, without any regard to what is actually happening on the map. Sometimes it works, other times it probably backfires. Most don't give much thought to it and just blame it on a lost 1v1 or getting ganked, but they don't ask why they were getting ganked. Which brings me back to my initial premise. For Honor's fighting system is the main draw for many of its players. Straight up winning fights oftentimes is enough to just win a match. It is also usually easier to make a quote-unquote good decision when you are in the lead or winning. The whole strategical element or macro game plays second, even third fiddle for most. So let me repeat it once more. What I've laid out today are only guidelines. Many factors can play a role when it comes to decisions in a specific scenario. Still, I hope it all made sense to you and you can start employing this in your own games. Communication is key, so inform your teammates about your best moves as well. Let me know how it goes. For now, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.
Hello everyone, and today I will show you 10 must-know settings that will give you an in-game benefit, more FPS, less input lag, and in general just make your life better. Overall, I can promise you that these settings and tips will help you improve your gameplay experience. Without further ado, let's get into it, baby! Mouse or controller dead zone. Let me first explain the gist of it. The lower the dead zone, the lower the amount of movement you have to make with your mouse or controller stick to change your guard. This means there is a lower input delay between you choosing to block a direction and actually block it. To simplify it even further, you block faster if the setting is very low. The downside is that you might accidentally change your guard by mistake since your mouse is very sensitive. So you must find a balance. Here are my settings, but my recommendation is to constantly lower it as much as possible without too much accidental movement. Lower the dead zone, get used to it, then lower it again and repeat until you get to 0. Step by step, do it gradually, and if you can discipline yourself to not move your stick when you are not charged, go for the maximum potential. But most of us, including myself, cannot do it, so we must find a decent ratio. To change it, go to Options, Advanced Controls, and from here,
How's it going, everybody? So, the long-awaited revenge guide. About time. I've been procrastinating on that one for I don't know how many months now. Revenge is probably one of the most misunderstood, or rather least understood mechanics in the game. Many players have certain expectations towards it, and if those aren't fulfilled, they claim it's not working properly. So here we are. This will be as in-depth a guide as I can make it, so please watch the whole thing and pay proper attention, as not everything is immediately obvious and you might have to re-watch certain parts. The video will be separated in a few subsections. When do you get revenge, how much revenge you get, and what properties you have while being in revenge. And we will start with the most important one first, as it's also the one most people know the least about. When do you actually get revenge, aka how does the tag system work? To determine whether you are actually eligible to gain revenge, For Honor uses a tag system. Every time you attack someone, or when someone attacks you, a tag is applied. You can have up to 4 tags on you, and you can also apply up to 4 tags, 1 on each opposing player. A tag lasts for exactly 5 seconds and refreshes every time an offensive action is performed. Attacks, GBs, bashes, and so on. I will talk about exceptions in just a bit. Whether you have tags on you or have applied to other players is not represented in the UI. You need to keep an overview of the fight and the clock to be able to reliably tell when you get or feed revenge respectively. A recent patch introduced the revenge meter around the emblems or symbols, yet tags are still on you to keep track of. And here comes the first misconception that leads to a lot of confusion and angry clips. To actually gain revenge, you need a minimum of 2 tags applied to you. That is what everyone knows. But does this mean you will always gain revenge with 2 tags? No, you do not always get to fill your revenge bar just because you have 2 tags. The critical thing here is the following. To gain revenge, you not only need a minimum of 2 tags, you also need to have at least 1 more tag applied to you than the opposing player that is hitting you. This means that if your opponent also has 2 tags on them, you will not gain revenge. In this situation, you need a minimum of 3 tags on you. This is to prevent excessive revenge gain during team fights or in general even normal fights. Let's look at examples. I have color-coded these clips and have these little revenge tag titles. I hope it is clear which timer belongs to which player. Let's get over this again then. Like I said, each attack, GB, bash, etc. applies a tag. That tag lasts 5 seconds. Once a second tag is applied to you, you will start gaining revenge. Both opposing players have 0 tags on them at this point. If I have one or even both of them, and they each have one tag, whether I meet the requirements of a minimum of 2 tags on me, or having at least one more than them, I continue to gain revenge in this fight. Once one of them stops attacking me, then I will no longer have 2 tags. Thus, I will no longer fill my revenge meter. Now let's apply an equal number of tags to everyone. All 4 players have 2 tags on them. As explained before, this will lead to no revenge gain for any of them. The minimum requirement of 2 tags is met, yet no one has one more tag than the other. Well, that's not the only requirement for team fights. I know that there are a lot of numbers on the screen and it's not immediately obvious which belongs to whom. So let's rewatch the middle part again and I'll explain the additional requirement. In this scenario here, I did have 2 tags already and my opponent had 1 or less. But I did not gain revenge while the George still had 1 active tag. This means that tags carry additional information, meaning it knows it was a 2-tag tag, for the lack of a better term. For me to gain revenge, all those tags needed to drop first, before I started filling my bar. In team fights, once people start to focus someone, tags will drop and eventually someone will be able to gain revenge. This is how people end up with revenge sometimes, yet next time you finish a 2-minute fight with like 30% of your revenge bar. Case in point, here we have a 3v2 in which we meet the requirements. It's not that easy to stage these, so try and follow along with the tags and try and identify when I gain revenge and when you previously thought I should have gained revenge. Mute me and watch it at half speed or something. It's just something you need to learn to identify yourself. Tag management is important in this game, and even having rudimentary knowledge about it is probably more than most people can claim for themselves. If it's only one thing you take away from this video, then let it be this: the way how tags work. Every single clip that's been posted since the revenge fix, someone is complaining about not getting revenge despite being ganked, could be explained with this. I was not joking last time when I said that revenge is indeed working as intended at the moment. But we are far from done here, because not every single offensive action does apply a revenge tag. There are moves that do not, most specifically feats. All damage dealing feats work just like attacks, so no worries there. Debuff feats, while giving an assist tag, meaning you gain renown from a takedown, they do not add a revenge tag. This means that you can contribute to a fight without any downsides. This covers the section about when you gain revenge. The next point is how much do you gain? What factors influence how fast or sometimes how slowly fill your revenge meter? First one, the base HP of your hero. The lower your HP, the faster you gain revenge. Currently Shinobi has the lowest amount of health, thus gains revenge the fastest. An important thing to remember here is that I said base HP. Every perk or feat that increases your health does not play a role here and are irrelevant when it comes to revenge. Second factor, the type of attack. It doesn't really matter whether it is a light or a heavy. Important is the amount of damage it does. The more damage it does, the more revenge it feeds. A very important aspect here is that damage reduction will not affect your revenge gain negatively. You will gain the full revenge based on the base damage of an attack. This also means that debuffs on you or buffs on your opponent do not change the amount of revenge an attack feeds. Other moves like bashes and GBs have a base amount that they feed, which has been named as 20 in previous patch notes. As we don't really know the number of a full bar, we can only speculate. For GBs, it doesn't matter whether those are successful, countered, or even bounced. They always feed the exact same amount. Feats follow their own rules. There are many non-damaging feats that feed quite a significant amount. Ki is a good example here. I will not go over each and every one here, especially since we can't really quantify the amount properly anyways. Damage over time does not feed revenge at all. That is another big advantage of bleed damage especially. Only the direct damage portion of bleed attacks does get revenge, whereas the dot itself will not. Then we have different multipliers that also play a big role. First battle, dodging, successful hit, block, or parry. In the order I just listed them, they feed from the least to the most. Yes, you heard right, dodging offers the least amount of revenge gain. It still follows the same rules as in a potentially higher damaging attack will feed more if dodged. Main problem here is that it is quite inconsistent. From what we can tell, only if you dodge an attack during your high frames will it count towards revenge. Yet, many attacks can be dodged in a far bigger window, which will mean you gain absolutely nothing. The second one depends on the tag again. The more outnumbered you are, the more revenge you get. The multipliers are as follows: 0.6 in a 1v2, 0.8 in a 1v3, and 0.9 in a 1v4. These are once again numbers given to us by Ubisoft. What we can deduce here is that adding a third tag is always a horrible idea. Once 3 are added, might as well throw in the 4th. The person will gain revenge no matter what. So, in complicated team fights with a non-stop change in numbers of tags, what multiplier does apply on a, let's say, a 2v3 for example? From our testing, it is the same as a 1v2. So tags act in relation to each other, and it's not just counting the highest number. It's probably linked to what I explained in the tag section, that they hold more information. Now, when will your revenge meter drop down again? First of all, when you unlock. It takes exactly 5 seconds before it starts dropping. For the bar to go down to 0, it depends on the hero. As an example, it's 7.7 seconds on a 120 HP hero and 9.2 on a 140 HP hero. You can, however, hold revenge by locking on to another opponent within said time frame. This resets the time. I'll talk more about revenge holding in just a little bit. But it is important to be locked onto a player. Being locked onto nothing will not stop the timer. Feats like Smoke Bomb that force you to drop your lock on can also cause this. While unlocked, you will also not gain any revenge, no matter how many tags you currently have on you. Being out of lock makes you ineligible for revenge gain, but you will collect and keep tags while unlocked, meaning you will gain revenge the moment you log on again, and you will not have to be tagged again. The last thing to cover here is the feed revenge attacks. It is available on PK, Gladiator, Zerker, Shaman, Nobu, Orochi, Shinobi, Nusha, and JJ. So quite a few. It works independently of the tag system, meaning you can get revenge in a 1v1, and multiple tags on you will not increase the amount you get from it. It adds a flat amount of revenge for each successful hit, depending on 2 things. First, the HP of your character. The other thing, the less you have, the more you get. To give you an idea, for a 120 HP character, it takes 20 heavies to fill it, and for a 140 HP character, they need 23. And the second criterion, whether it's a light or heavy. The damage of each attack does not matter. It's all about whether the attack is considered a heavy or a light. This is one of the main reasons why Berserker benefits so much from it. The zone attack counts as 4 heavy, so he can fill his full bar with 5 zones. Clashes and feats do not give you any revenge. This should cover all the criteria for how much revenge you gain. With the additional outline that has been added just recently, people should be able to very much have a rough idea during a fight about how much revenge they have already fed and how much additional attacks they feed. Alright, so now you know when and how much revenge you can get in each specific scenario. So, what if you finally got it? What then? Revenge has quite a few properties that you should know about. First thing, the auto parry when you pop it. It takes 100 milliseconds for the parry to activate, It is not instant, so keep that in mind when you do it on the reaction to a light attack. This also is important for ganks, as you can hit within the 100 milliseconds time window to get additional damage in. Said auto parry has a duration of 800 milliseconds. Those active frames can be cancelled by actions. That used to include even guard switch, which has been fixed, but as soon as you start moving or throwing out attacks, those parry frames are cancelled. The punish for each hero on a revenge knockdown can be found in my max punish video, so look them up there if you are unfamiliar with them for the heroes that you play. Now that you are in revenge, you have a 30% increase in damage, which follows the usual damage stacking rules. Additionally, you have a 120 HP shield, and all of that lasts for exactly 8 seconds. On top of all that, your attacks are now armored. To be precise, it is super armor, meaning that neither attacks nor bashes can interrupt you once you are in a move. You also have no GB vulnerability on any of them. It's just between attacks that you are still susceptible to interrupts in form of attacks, bashes or GBs. During throws, it's bashes and feats that can interrupt you. Your own GBs are also armored and do ignore GB vulnerability. That means you can grab opponents out of their attacks. Your throws while in revenge function the same as if your opponent was out of stamina. Every throw will knock them to the floor, same as every parry that you get. And one more property, your attacks are now all enhanced. Your lights will no longer bounce on blocks. Most of you have probably been familiar with all of that already, but never hurts to have them all listed. So now for a few of the problems that a lot of the community agrees with. Well, I'm not going to go into the whole debate whether the tag system is actually the best system that Ubisoft could have come up with, as that would require a lot of testing and tweaking, so just us debating it on a theoretical level will probably not get us anywhere. But there are some problems that I want to mention. The first one is revenge holding. I know the clip here is pretty old, but it's rare to find people mess up this hard, so I saved it. The fact that you have no timer on when you need to pop your revenge can lead to quite weird fight scenarios, even to a point where it's possible to get, have and hold revenge while ganking someone. The current limitations when it comes to holding revenge are way too lax. Whatever approach you want to take here, instant pop once revenge is filled, or give it a timer of, let's say, within 10 seconds of getting revenge, you need to pop it. Because it's pretty much impossible to fight someone in a 1v1 that is holding onto a full bar. The other one is one that actually leads to problems like I just mentioned, where people end up with revenge while ganking someone. That is, tags from a person need to disappear the very moment they die. Tags persisting throughout death is extremely annoying. Now with the additional outline and the fact that we know exactly how much revenge our opponent has, this might be a less common scenario now, but it can still happen that the outnumbering party somehow pulls revenge out of their arse because the tags from people they just killed remain on them. In conclusion, whether you gain revenge is very much in control of your attackers. A lot of the time it's actually detrimental for you to even start attacking when outnumbered, as that would mean you aren't being attacked, meaning you don't gain revenge. People that know how to manage this and also know how tags work, which most of you should know now, will not needlessly give someone revenge. Oftentimes, it doesn't even have to be the case. If some random clown puts themselves out of stamina while ganking, this also means he's not feeding anything and probably also results in the attacks dropping. Alright, let's just leave it at that now. We're probably almost at 20 minutes by now, and this is a lot of info all at once, but now you at least have a source to look it all up again. A huge shout out to everyone that has helped gather the information and especially helped record all of this. Recording alone was probably close to 8 hours, so thank you for your time guys, and also for all the extra input. I hope that this video has shed some light on the topic of revenge, but should there still be questions, feel free to ask them down below, or even better, join my Discord and ask there. Having said all that, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters, everybody.
We screamed Baron or something. Yeah, I think you stay on Raider. You killed yourself, man. You cannot GP from there. You die if you do that. Unlucky. Help me.
No.
Unlucky. No, if I let it go, I die to toad points, so. Lock on, what the fuck? No, don't unlock. You don't get revenge if you unlock. Help me. What are you doing, man?
You.
Not me. Way too late. Trade something. You can't be AFK. I'm out of stam. Oh fuck. No, fucking Shugoki. Wanna do something? try to confirm my shit and like heal for me.
Just stop.
Something. You're doing nothing.
No! You're blind.
Oh. No. I was lost.
Almost.
You're doing the thing I told you about, like you dodge attacks that are not even hitting you. You need to instead peel. Like, if something is not gonna hit you, peel it. What are you doing? Like, you killed me. Like, he's gonna eat it, dumbass. Like, he has HP to just tank the hit. He's gonna do it. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing, man?
You! I told you I'm low stamina!
Well, you don't need to confirm my attacks, you just need to peel for me when I get punished.
Sam, one attack and
I mean, I can catch his dodges with zone as well, so it's like I cannot catch his dodge with GPU. Help. No!
Too easy with straight.
What the fuck? What the fuck?